if we're talking about someone that's eating a standard American diet and is, very sedentary, we start with stopping snacking. It's really like, you got to rip that Band-Aid off, because, if you understand that you're only going to have 3 meals a day, you're going to have to structure your macronutrient profile very differently and have more protein and kind of ratchet back on carbohydrates. And that's very scary for a lot of people when they've been eating a certain way. If they've been eating the standard American diet, which is more processed carbs, wrong types of seed oils, and high fructose corn syrup, and all of a sudden you're telling them, I want you to eat more protein, that can be a little bit overwhelming. So we stop snacking, because that will then force people to restructure each one of their meals, leaning into 30, 40, 50 grams of protein. This is when I really encourage patients to start tracking their macros, so they have a good sense of portions and understanding that carbohydrates are not all bad, but having, a quarter cup of blueberries is very different than having, half a pint of ice cream, has a very different nutritional profile. So stop snacking, restructure the macros. And then I actually encourage them to go. The next step is, don't eat from the time that you finish dinner until breakfast the following day, and try not to eat within the first hour or two of waking up. That's another kind of common misnomer, that we have to eat to stoke our metabolism. And I remind people, one of the worst things you can do is to get up and just just eat immediately.
Why?
That's usually
Just for people listening, why do you say that?
Well, I think that I like people to get moving in the morning. And so I remind them, like, if we're looking again at this kind of circadian biology, I want you to get up and get moving. Maybe you have some, bitter tea. Maybe you're having a plain coffee, but get up and get moving, get some light exposure, which can definitely be helpful for insulin sensitivity. So get up, get moving, even if it's you go from your bed to the shower to your car, and then you walk a little bit, get moving first. The other thing is, I think it's the routine of a lot of these habits that get them derailed. So we go from no snacking, changing your macros, nothing from dinner to breakfast, and then just encouraging them to maybe go in 30-minute increments. Maybe, they go to 13 hours of digestive rest, then they go to 13 and a half hours, then they go 14. And I find most people within 2 to 3 weeks, the average person in 2 to 3 weeks will feel so much better. They're not willing to go back. But I do have people who are incredibly metabolically deranged and unhealthy, and it could take them 4, 6, 8 weeks. And it's really that for some of them, it is really going an extra 15 minutes, an extra 30 minutes every day to kind of get them up to 16 hours fasted with an 8-hour feeding window. I find for a lot of people, if we do it low and slow, that's very effective. There's a lot of coaching involved, obviously, because we're retraining, there all this neuroplasticity. We're really having to really do a lot of retraining, and dispelling a lot of conventional wisdom and dogma. And I say wisdom with air quotes, things that we've been passing along to our patients that are just blatantly wrong. Mm-hmm. But I do find it usually is 2 to 3 weeks, but in some instances it can take 4 to 6 weeks, just small incremental changes. And then depending on if you've got a woman that's still at peak fertile years, or a perimenopausal woman, helping them understand, don't start trying to fast for the first time the week before your menstrual cycle, because you're going to set yourself up for some degree of inability to be able to do it effectively. And so helping people understand, like, when in your cycle should you fast? When should you back off on fasting? There's a whole kind of methodology based on our infradian rhythms, which is, the menstrual cycle and where we are in our cycle, and fluctuations of sex hormones. But that's kind of the usual approach that I take with most patients. But the other thing that I would just add to that is, fasting doesn't per se work for everybody. So there are some people, just frankly, they could be metabolically healthy and it just doesn't work for them. It's understanding no one should be white knuckling fasting. Unfortunately, I think there is this kind of prevailing mindset on social media that you just white knuckle everything that's tough in life. And I just don't believe in that. I think that we have to acknowledge our own innate bioindividuality to determine what works best for us. And it could be, maybe it doesn't work for you right then. It could be that it'll work better for you in 6 months. Maybe you have too much stress in your life, and this added stress, it's like adding gasoline to a fire, can be problematic. But that's my typical approach.
Hey, this is Ari. I hope you enjoyed this little clip. And if you want to listen to the full length podcast, the link for that is down in the description below. Also, one more thing before you go, I want to mention, in case you don't already know about it, our formula, Energenesis. This is an amazing product. that has multiple compounds in it that are scientifically proven in numerous studies to increase your energy levels, not just by 3% or 5% or 10%, but by 30 or 40 or 50% in a very, very short time frame. So one of these compounds that I'll mention here is called NT factor phospholipid, and it is an extract of phospholipids that comes from lecithin, and they extract the pure phospholipids from this, things like phosphatidylcholine, phosphatidylethanolamine, and many others. And these are the same fatty acid compounds, phospholipid compounds, that compose our cell membranes and mitochondrial membranes. And this specific patented formula has been shown actually to enter into the bloodstream undigested, basically without being broken down and denatured through the digestive process in the stomach and the intestines. It makes it into the bloodstream and actually makes it all the way to our cells and to our mitochondria, where it helps repair damaged mitochondrial membranes and facilitates our mitochondria functioning better. Now, all of that sounds like wonderful theory, and it sounds like it could be beneficial, but the real test is, has it actually been studied and been proven to increase your energy levels? And the answer is yes, absolutely. There are numerous studies outlined in a wonderful paper by a scientist named Garth Nicholson, in a paper called Lipid Replacement Therapy. I highly recommend checking this out if you're interested in digging into the research. But this compound has been studied in the context of multiple different kinds of chronic fatigue. Aging-related chronic fatigue, obesity-related chronic fatigue, obscure things like Gulf War illness, and numerous studies in chronic fatigue syndrome. And there are studies showing that this has the capability. They've taken one study, in fact, actually showed that in elderly adults over the age of 65, it restored their mitochondrial health, which had deteriorated heavily. It restored it to the level of healthy 29-year-olds, believe it or not. And they've actually measured energy levels in these people. And all of these studies across the board show improvements in energy of at least 25%, and typically more like 35 to 45% in just the span of between 4 to 12 weeks. That's how long all of these studies are, 4 to 12 weeks. They're showing dramatic, huge improvements in energy levels by helping to repair these mitochondrial membranes through this thing called lipid replacement therapy, using, again, this patented form of a phospholipid extract called NT factor. This is just one of about 20 ingredients proven to benefit mitochondrial health that you'll find in my formula Energenesis. So I strongly encourage you, if you are struggling with your energy levels, if you're dealing with chronic fatigue, go grab yourself a bottle or 3 of this, or subscribe and save. Try it out. You are going to be blown away by the results. We get so many testimonials. We get so many emails from people talking about how this one thing has transformed their lives. So I cannot encourage you strongly enough to give this a shot. And let's say you buy 3 bottles, try out the first one, give it a month. And if you don't notice significant improvements, you can return the unopened bottles to us for a full refund. So give it a shot. I really think you're going to be blown away by the results. The formula is called Energenesis, and you can get it at theenergyblueprint.com or click the link below. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll talk to you again very soon.